Good morning, everybody. It's 12 o'clock, and that means it's time for this week's Facebook Live. Sorry, I'm a moment or two late. Facebook have brought in a new video system that my computer didn't like, so it took me a moment to dismiss it and go back to the old ways. So this week, slightly less good weather, which is probably a relief for most of our beach staff and gives us all a little bit of a rest. But it does mean that some of us have had to put the heating back on, which is not ideal. Next, where are we at the moment with what's going on? So we have got shops opening again from next week, and bizarrely zoos. I don't know if you heard that this morning. So you know, children that aren't able to go to school, I suppose, could go to Marwell Zoo and enjoy something about biology. But so let's talk about schools. Somebody has asked about 11 plus. I'm afraid I need to find out what's going on with 11 plus, because it's not something which I have details on, but we will ask our team to come back to you, Gemma, directly on that. We do know, of course, that no secondary schools are likely to be going back, and the primary schools aren't going back in the way they were originally planning to. One of the reasons that's been given for the face masks on public transport is because secondary schools are generally back on the 15th, and that coincides with the date when people are wearing face masks, and generally secondary school children are using the bus to get to school. So I don't know about you, I'm frustrated by this. I've got teenage children and they are doing their best, but it's not the same as being at school. So you know, we have to let our teachers and our schools lead on this. They are independent. It is down to the head teacher how he or she deals with the reopening of their school, whether they do live lessons, whether they do Google Classroom or anything else. So those questions really do need to be directed to head teachers, chairs of governors, to lead on those issues. Secondary school applications, I realise no visits have been allowed. I'm going to find out about that one because that came up last week. So leave that with me. I noticed that Councillor Sandra Moore is on the call. She is the portfolio holder for children and families. So we will find out what's going on with that, see if we can get a statement out exactly about that. Okay, thank you for all the kind wishes. That's really nice. Play parks. At the moment, the councils haven't been given any guidance at all on play parks, which is, I know, slightly strange. At the moment, we're working on the basis that as the government guidance allows things to open up, we'll open them up. At this point, play parks and outdoor gyms are not supposed to be being used. Really horrible thing that was shared with me yesterday of somebody asking somebody not to use an outdoor gym down on the beach, got a load of abuse. And then this guy spat on the pavement. So, you know, come on, guys, let's all just be a bit more respectful. Angela, this is back to applications, everything to do with school applications. Our school appeals team are working really, really hard at the moment to try and get all the school appeals up to date. That's their priority. If you've got an EHCP application, it will be going through the process. Obviously, schools aren't working to full capacity, so where EHCP applications are waiting on school comments and assessments, those things will take a little bit longer. I know from my own children's school, there are 20% or more of the staff that are shielding themselves, and therefore, you know, they're not able to function in the normal way. So those things will be slowed down. But if you've got an EHCP application in the system, it is being worked on. Our staff are trying to get those through as quickly as they can. You should have a dedicated person working with you on that, and they should be able to update you. Thank you everybody for your kind wishes from last night. It was a long night, so I'm afraid I'm perhaps looking a little bit weary this morning. I've applied for the discretionary grant last week. When can I expect an answer? So the discretionary grants are open until 9 o'clock on Monday morning. It's absolutely vital that you apply as soon as you possibly can, because when that window closes at 9 o'clock on Monday, we will then assess the applications. During the 2-week window that it's been open, our team have been checking to make sure that things do meet the criteria, and checking to make sure that there's nothing obvious that needs to be amended, but they're not assessing. So the assessments will start on Monday. We know that people have waited a long time for these. companies that got the small business grants got them in April, so it's a long delay. We hope that sort of towards the end of next week, when they've all been assessed, we'll be able to give the grants. The reason we're not rushing them through is the pot of money we've been given is fixed. We're lobbying for more, but at the moment it looks as though it is a fixed pot. And what we want to make sure is that we don't give out money to the first people who apply, and then other businesses who get assessed later on in the 2-week process miss out and might have lost a bigger proportion of their income. So we've decided to do it that way. We think it's fairer to everybody. So regarding the petition to stop people travelling outside postcodes, you know, I'm really, really upset that the government and the MPs haven't backed us on this. I've had one of the 5 MPs for this area who has formally written back to me to say that they don't agree with our position, that they respect our position, but that they don't agree and they think we should just get on back to normal. One of the other MPs hasn't written to me directly, but I have seen sight of a very, very robust letter sent to government explaining the difficulties that we're having. As yet, I haven't seen that he's had a reply. But as it stands at the moment, the government are not willing to put in any additional measures to help us or other tourist areas. We've really got to try and manage things ourselves. We made the right decision in not closing car parks. Dorset made a different decision and their car parks are generally now open. Most places in the country, car parks are now open. People will travel. There is nothing we can do to stop them travelling. We need to make sure that we're as prepared as we can be. This week of less good weather has been useful for us because our staff have had time to regroup and move things on. Lots more signage going up, even more toilets are now open, the dog signage is clearer. All of those things that would have happened in the early part of the summer, only we weren't open and we didn't have the staff, and the staff are now being rapidly recruited. So at this point, nothing positive on stopping people travelling. However, it is worth mentioning that every local authority now has to write a local outbreak plan for the potential of a local outbreak of COVID-19. And we will have to run that. And we're currently writing that plan about how we will manage it, how we can lock down an area, who does the communication. It's supposed to be led by the leader and the chief exec. At the moment, we haven't actually found out whether there are any powers that go with that, how we will be able to make people stay at home if they have been asked to stay at home, and if we have to lock down a road or a community, how we're going to go about doing that. So we've got until the end of the month to do it, which is slightly crazy because what if we get a situation before the end of June? But that's where we are, and we only got the guidelines within the last 7 days, so you guys are working really fast. So Emma's made some comments about how can pubs be open before schools. You tell me, I don't make the rules. You know, my son has got one morning of school before September. He's in year 10. I know some schools are offering a morning a week, but a morning for a term, ridiculous. My 12-year-old's got no school at all. With the best will in the world, sitting in her room on a Google Classroom is not a replacement for school, but that really isn't something that we can control. We're looking at school visits, so Leonie, bear with us on that. I'm going to give that one to Sandra. Ideas for opening around libraries. At the moment, libraries are not likely to reopen very quickly. There's lots of reasons for that. Some of our library staff have been redeployed to other roles. Some of them are still working in the community hub, making sure that the shielded people have got the support that they need. We've got a home library service that we've started. The home library service is allowing people who are shielded to still have access to books. Some of the team are working on that. Some of the staff are working on reconfiguring the services. And as things move forward, we want to be able to use our libraries better and differently. So it may be that a few libraries open, it may be they open on restricted hours, it may be they open with restricted services. But we're not going to rush to do that, because for us it's better to restore those services the way they need to be for the future. We're already talking about transformation, and we need to make sure that we don't reopen a service as it was when actually we could do it better. Please remind people Little Dan's a dog-free area. everybody, Little Downs dog free. Lots of areas are dog free, and we need to ask our dog owning friends to please be respectful of people, that not everybody likes your dog, and if you're in an area that's not supposed to have dogs, please don't have dogs. The beach signage has been improved. I've seen the new red and green signage about which is a dog area, which is not a dog area. So that's something that we're working really hard to improve. Andrea's asked update on cycle routes, not a reference to a link. Well, I can't give long responses on here, so you may have to look at links. So we have a sum of money that's been given to the council and all councils to help us with routes that will help to encourage cycling and to get people walking and to create more space for people. The first one that's being advertised is the potential closure of Poole Lower High Street and Poole Quay, so that we can make that people friendly and move cars to somewhere else. That's due, if it's not already in the Echo, it's due in the Echo in the next 48 hours. And all being well, if people support that, then we will have that in place by the beginning of July. There's another 19 schemes that we've costed that we can do within our budget. We have to get those out and done in plenty of time, because if we don't have those completed within 4 weeks, the government won't give us the next tranche of money they've promised us. So we've got 600 schemes that we're looking at. And as those schemes go into consultation, those schemes will go into the public domain. And if there are consultations needed, you'll have the chance to comment on them for or against. If you do have more ideas, you need to keep sending them in. Right, there's a hell of a lot coming in on here about milans tip. So the tips are still proving to be busy. A lot of people have waited. Thank you for waiting. Please keep on waiting. If you don't need to go to the tip, hold on. I would imagine that once more people start going back to work next week, we will start to see the supply and demand levelling out. We had a real problem with milans last week, where people in Dorset were being told to go to milans because people in Dorset are allowed to use milans. Really unhelpful. The milans tip is ideally there for people from BCP, so we will be trying to manage that. It simply isn't practical to close the entrance from Bear Cross. That is the main entrance to that tip. We do have marshals available, and when it's busy, we do put qualified marshals out to try and keep the traffic moving. Unfortunately, it is one of those things that we do get those problems every weekend, and until we move a tip somewhere completely different, it's unlikely to be totally resolved. But remember, we do have 3 household waste recycling centres that people in BCP can use: Duffield in Poole, Milans in Bournemouth, and Wilverley Road in Christchurch. So somebody has made a comment about, what did I just miss? Somebody made a comment, oh, it's gone. Help, it's going so fast. Stop putting the questions up. Somebody made a comment about Lord Baden-Powell. So Black Lives Matter, we're all really concerned. Everyone must share a horror about what happened to George Floyd a couple of weeks ago. Certainly it's been a topic of conversation in my house, and I did write out with support last week about the protests that were going on. It has been suggested that the statue of Lord Baden-Powell should be taken down, that's on Poole Quay. We've been talking about this morning. Baden-Powell has done such great work for scouting, starting scouting, giving our children such an incredible start in life. Yes, in the early part of his life, he was involved with the Zulus, but actually, if you look later on in his life, the work that he did to support the Pan-African nationalism and actually get Indigenous people to run their own countries was actually quite amazing. Poole Museum had an amazing display about him and his work. We will do what we can to protect those statues while decisions are made. But I think, we need to be realistic and say that if somebody was working as a general in the British Army, then it was the state, as opposed to private people making millions of pounds like some other people we might mention who were slavers themselves. So we could talk about that all day. I don't think most people have tuned in for that, but we are aware of the sensitivities around the issue, and we are reviewing what we can do. Chris Wakefield's asked some questions about BOSCOM. So our BOSCOM Town Fund is going really, really well. The board is meeting regularly. Our bids are in. We're waiting to hear whether we're going to get a significant amount of money, tens of millions of pounds, to develop BOSCOM and make BOSCOM as great as it really should be. I mean, one of the things I love about BOSCOM is if you look up, the beauty of the buildings in BOSCOM are just wonderful. You know, and there's such a wonderful cultural hub in BOSCOM with the Royal Arcade and the O2. You know, I think we've got real potential in BOSCOM to create an incredible community, and I'm really, really thrilled that we've got working on that. So great work to the team in BOSCOM, and we'll keep informing you on that. Somebody asked when the toilets in Portkey were going to be reopened. Sorry for spotting that. They've been open from day one. I used them myself on the very first Sunday. A seagull pooped on my shoulder and I had to go in. So I know they're open. They were open on the 16th, 17th of May. They remain open. All of the toilets do close down for an hour at a time to be able to be really deep cleaned, because we can't have our staff in there while people are coming and going. So be aware that if the toilets are closed, it's probably just for a clean, but they are open. Toilet opening times on the beach remain as they were, generally 10 to 5:30. We are increasing that as we go. If I just remind you that we have normally got 200 summer staff on the beach, we're currently at about 50 or 60. So those staff are working really long hours to try and bring everything through quickly, and it just isn't practical for them to keep those toilets open late into the evening and then get them cleaned ready for the next morning. So at the moment they're being closed down at sort of 5:30ish, and then they've got time to be deep cleaned before they go back the next day. No cycling signs in lower gardens. I totally agree with you, David. I have stood in lower gardens and I have called out people that have been cycling. Some of them get off their bike politely, some of them less politely. We have asked for more signage to go on the floor and at eye level. There is a slight difficulty in that it's a conservation area, so we have to be a bit more mindful, but the team are working on better routing, because the route does go round the side of the park. There is a route down the side. It isn't clear, totally get that. And when you've got loads of people walking through, sometimes by the time you've seen it, it's too late. So we're working on that. The team are aware of it, and that should be resolved soon. I drive a 4x4. It's my family car, yet I can only use the tip 6 times a year. By all means, send it in. You have to bear in mind that we are in a situation where we've got a £32 million shortfall. Actually, a lot of people that drive pickups, it's not their family car. And a lot of people do abuse the situation. And this is our council taxpayers that are paying for this. I totally get that you're a council taxpayer too, but we have to balance it. So rules are there to make sure that we don't have people abusing it, and we are doing our best. But by all means, write in, and when we next review it, we can look at that. Gosh, it's going so quickly. Wishing we've got audio captions. There are subtitles. You can turn on subtitles. I know there's subtitles because I met the poor lad Adam, who has to subtitle my Facebook lives, and I talk too fast, so I'm sorry about that. But he did say that the captioning system doesn't like the word beach hut. So I'm interested to know what it actually comes up with. So there are captions and subtitles. So Jilly, it's probably worth looking and finding out how you switch them on. Informations and weddings are still not permitted, although birth registrations have now been permitted. From next week, we are going to be working through our backlog of birth registrations. They will be taking place at the three areas, Bournemouth Town Hall, Christchurch Guildhall and Paul Guildhall. They will be starting again on an appointment system, as they always are, but we need more social distancing. So we are bringing in a temporary building at Paul, so that we've got more space, because it's obviously a very small building. So if you are waiting to register your baby, then please look out for notifications on that. Weddings still remain not allowed. Those that are booked already from July onwards, we are looking at being able to possibly maintain those, but there'll be no receptions, no big events. It'll be literally 4 people. Let me tell you about the power station, because time is running on. Last night at full council, a very long full council. If anybody has nothing better to do, there's a YouTube video 4.5 hours long. The power station was finally signed off. So assuming all goes to plan and the sale goes through in the next little while, we will take ownership of the power station site. That site's been in private ownership for the last 20 years plus. It has literally sat derelict for decades. The reason that those of us in Poole had our council tax, we were paying through our council tax for the Twin Sails Bridge, which is working, it's all fine. It needs some more things doing to it, but it's going to be okay. The reason that Twin Sails Bridge was to open up that site. And at the moment, there is outline planning on there, and we're expecting anything between 800 and 1,000 homes. But more importantly, we want to create a new community over there. We've got some really exciting plans. We've been talking to people about what we want to see there. We've been having meetings with people about how we create a public park, whether we can create some sort of Lido, whether, obviously we've got to look after the quay wall. We want to make sure, if we can, that it's a low traffic neighbourhood, that we can make it as environmentally sound as we possibly can. And it's a really exciting opportunity. We've got government money to help make it happen. I've actually got a meeting this afternoon about bringing this fast and forward. So hopefully we'll actually start seeing the cranes over there. And once we start building on that site, with whatever joint venture partner we go for, there will be other sites that are coming forward on the other side. You'll be aware there's planning permission along the quay side, sort of next door to where the RNLI building is, and right the way round to the old bridge, and another site on the Sydenham's timber site on the other side. All of those things are ready to go. It's just somebody needs to have the confidence to get it started, and that's why it's so important that the council is cracking on with it. Someone's commented about having been on the waiting list for 7 years as a single man. Do you know what? This is because for decades, social houses have not been built in this country. That's not a local issue. It's a national issue. We are 300,000 homes behind where we should be. And this council, is trying to do something about that. Realistically, if you've got 7,000 or 8,000 people on the waiting list, which is what we've got across the 3 towns, and you're building maybe 100 social homes a year, it's going to take a while before you can actually get those homes built. And we have to do it on a priority basis. Now, our housing allocation policy is being reviewed at the moment. It's going to be running throughout the rest of this year. And we're actually going to be looking to make sure people have got a local connection, that they've got the right need, that they genuinely can't afford to live in the private sector. Those are the people that will be prioritised. But realistically, if you're a single person, and you don't have medical needs, and you don't have other reasons why you can't privately rent, you don't have dependents, you're not going to be at the top of the housing list. We have to prioritise. The only way to stop prioritising is to actually build tens of thousands of homes, and they've got to go somewhere. So ultimately, things like the power station site, the Winter Garden site that we deferred last night will hopefully go through next month. We've got social housing being built in Redhill and Northbourne on an old care home site. That's due to come to Cabinet in 2 weeks' time. We've got a site in Westbourne. We've got sites in Kinston. There are sites all over the place. Probably somewhere around 1,000 new homes that we can build on our own land. And the local plan has currently asked for other sites. So, there are lots of opportunities to get properties built, but we want the right properties. We want properties that are environmentally sound, which are good to live in, they're cheap to live in. We don't want to put people into fuel poverty, and we want to make sure we can create communities and not places that people don't want to live, and also make sure that those people living there don't have a negative impact on the people that are already living there. Joining a community, and we've got to be able to work together. So we're working really, really hard. Okay, what have we got? We've got 5 minutes left. What have I not covered? This week is Carers Week, so I just want to say thank you to everybody out there who are carers, whether you're a paid carer or whether you're one of the army of unpaid carers. We value everything that you do, and you're doing an incredible job. So thank you. Please keep up the good work. We're trying to get the message out there. We do have a Proud to Care award scheme, and we do value our carers that work within the council. So that's something that we're very passionate about. The other thing I just want to flag, a couple of weeks ago, I think I shared with you a visit I made to school where the schools were working together to create visors, which they were giving to various frontline workers, including my daughter works at Boots, and she's got one so that they can protect their faces. The other group I worked with there is a fantastic group of ladies called Frontline Face Masks. Look them up on social media. They are making the most spectacular face masks for frontline workers. And oh my goodness, the best one I ever saw was something, I think it had stitched across it, "If you can read this, you're too close," which I thought was awesome. Another one which had the Mick Jagger tongue thing, which is really, really exciting. So look them up. If you can support them, if you can join them by making face masks, if you can, you know, offer to bid to buy some of their one-off so that they can get more money in, that would all be really good. Okay, the other things we need to talk about are speeding. Okay, so there's been a real problem in the last few weeks with fewer cars on the roads, that we're seeing more areas reporting cases of speeding. We obviously want more people walking and cycling, and it's frightening if cars are going fast. So can I recommend, if you are worried about speeding in your area, the first port of call is the police. There is a website called Dorset Road Safe. It is part of the police system, dorsetroadsafe.org.uk. If you go onto their enforcement and operations, you can actually register an area that's got a particular problem. And I would recommend that you ask the police to put in their mobile cameras to actually see if there's a problem. If we are ever asked to put in speed reduction measures, one of the things we will ask is whether the police support that. So it's really important that if people haven't asked for it, then it's not going to happen. But if the people have asked for it and they've gone to the police and the police said, actually, there's a real problem here, then the police will support the measures that we look to put in. So we've got to work together on that. So Dorset Road Safe, highly recommended. Thanks for the useless advice on applying for council tax reduction benefit. We won't be getting a penny from you until we're back in job. So the council tax reduction benefit is available to people who are already receiving the council tax reduction. So there's an additional £150 that's being taken off people who are on benefits. The level of income you have to not pay council tax is incredibly low, but that level is fairly universal. You know, if you're earning £100 a week, then you clearly can't afford to pay council tax. You'll qualify for council tax reduction benefit, which means you only pay a small percentage of council tax. If you're earning above that threshold, then unfortunately you do need to pay your council tax, and we know that's difficult, but the services that council tax provides need to be funded, and they need to be funded by all of us, and you know, we need to do our best to do that. So you can spread your payments over 12 months instead of 10. Obviously, if you're not working, then your income is below that level, then you can apply for universal credit. And if you apply for universal credit and your income is low, then you can actually apply for the council tax reduction benefit. It's all on the council's website, or you can Google it, and or any other search engine. If you Google it, it will actually send you to the government website. You put in your postcode and it takes you through the system. I've had a go at it myself. More cafes tables outside cafes. We're doing our best with that, Barbara. We've got an economy work task force that's looking at how we can use our pavements differently, whether we can redeploy some of our car parking spaces that are outside cafes and turn them into little outdoor pavement cafes. All of that's being looked at. We need to be mindful that we balance the needs of everybody. If we turn all of our pavements into cafes and then there's nowhere for people to walk, particularly people who might be visually impaired or people with mobility issues who can't really walk in the road, we need to make sure that it's safe for everybody. So we are trying to reduce some pavement clutter, asking people not to put A-boards out if they don't need to, trying to make sure that it's managed well. And there's a whole load of signage going up. So you will see this going everywhere. It's pretty basic stuff. Keep left. In most places, this is going up. I've seen it all around my community. They're going on the floor, they're going on the lamppost, to remind people, if we all stay left, it's a whole lot simpler. I remember when I was at school in the corridors, it was always the teachers shouting, keep left, keep left. If we all stick to the left, that's the side we drive, it will make it a lot easier. And of course, remember, if you're walking or cycling, please single file, because otherwise it's really disrespectful to other people. So really, really keen that people try and just all work together. If we do simple things like keeping left, going single file, cyclists giving way to pedestrians, people being respectful of others, remembering that cyclists are people too. The amount of vile stuff you hear about being thrown at cyclists is really unfair. So second homeowners, when will they be able to stay in their homes again? Can't answer that question, I'm afraid. As far as the rules on staying overnight, it is still a rule that no one is allowed to stay away from their own home overnight. You can't camp on the beach. You can never camp on the beach. It's not allowed. We do evict people. We don't do it late at night. There's very good reason for that. One, our staff have been working since 7 in the morning, so we shouldn't be expecting them to work at night, 10, 11 o'clock at night. Secondly, if people have been drinking or taking drugs, it's not safe for our staff. They're not security guards, they're beach staff. And 3, if you stop somebody at 10 o'clock at night, how do you actually know they're staying overnight? You know, they'll argue that they're not really staying there, they're just spending the evening. So what we tend to do is go early in the morning when they're still in bed. We know they've been in bed. We're then able to take whatever action we need to take. So it's really important that, you know, we think about what we can do, what powers we actually have. Social distancing is a guide. It is not a law and it is not enforceable by us. So while we all might like to think that the council or the police should be keeping people apart, we can't. It is something that we're all doing for each other in these extraordinary times. So there's an awful lot of specific questions about working with community land trusts and housing strategies. Throw them into us. They're probably far too complex for today. You know, if you've got specific suggestions around things we should be doing, there are 75 councillors. Every single resident of BCP has at least one councillor. Most have 2, some have 3. Those councillors are your voice. And I would highly encourage you to use those counsellors and make sure that they're working for you. I'm always very, very happy to take any questions. People can email me. Our portfolio holders are always available. If there are great ideas to be had, we'll take them. People ask about consultation. Consultation is incredibly important to this council administration. As and when consultations come up, they are announced on our website, they are announced in the newspapers, so you need to make sure you engage with that. And we're looking to do more and more different types of consultation, so we will make sure that those are made available to people. Okay, I'm just going to quickly scroll down. I don't want to get too much into the details about housing allocations. If you need to apply for a home, you need to be local. We're not going to be giving homes out to people who live elsewhere. You know, that we should be providing local homes for local people, and if you want to move here and you're not local, then you should be finding something in the private rental sector. Christina, if you have a council property, you can't do anything to it without permission. So you can't, if it's a council house you live in, you can't divide a bedroom without permission. If it's a private property, if it's rented, you obviously need your landlord's permission. If you own the property, it's probably best to contact planning and see if it needs building regulations. But obviously, if it's just a case of putting a divider up, then you might not. But you need to get professional advice. That's what our planning department, our building regulations are for. So it's just gone at past. I'm going to call it a day. There are loads of interesting questions here. We are going to keep going with the Facebook Lives, even as people move to talk about different things other than what's been going on with COVID-19. There is so much to talk about, and I will do my best to, if you get in nice and early, ask me a question early, I'll try and raise it and talk about it here. But yeah, the point is, we're doing 600 plus services. We're doing the very best we can. We still have reduced staff. A big shout out to everyone who works for BCP Council, who have done extraordinary stuff over the last 3 months. Carry on doing extraordinary stuff. You know, they've been working through this pandemic in extraordinary ways, most of them working from home. We'll continue to work from home for the foreseeable as we transform the council to save as much money as we can, so that the money that we're taking from you in council tax is going direct on services and not funding multiple buildings all over the country. So I'm going to call it a day at 12:35, but I will see you again next week, and I will come back and answer as many of those questions as I can, as will the portfolio holder. Take care. Bye-bye.